I retreated into myself when I was about 12.
So you have a lot of experience trying to gain value out of dumber people.
I think that would be an accurate assessment, yes.
So you get that you're doing it again, right?
Yes, I do. I do understand. I mean,
You
I
do
see it
now, right?
now.
Did you before the call, or are you getting
Um,
it now, right?
no, I mean, I'm getting it. I mean, I'm getting it now. I don't know how to say it. I just,
Well, so hang on. So one of the primary markers of intelligence is the willingness to proactively adjust beliefs based upon empirical evidence. Would you agree with that?
yes.
Okay. So one of the great challenges that you have is that you are what, in the top 0.5% of people's intelligence, probably 0.25%, right?
Yeah, I think more like that, or maybe top 20%, because I know Men's has 150 and they're like top 5%. So,
No. Maybe someone can figure this one out. But if you're, let's just say you're 140, that is incredibly rare. Um, that is incredibly rare. You're not in the top 20%, I guarantee you. If anyone in the chat room can look that up, it's very, very rare because it's a bell curve, right? So you have the joy and the challenge of being surrounded by idiots in life. No, I mean, just empirically, mathematically, this is just going to be a fact that you are going to be smarter than 1,000 people or 800 people in general, right? 140 is Einstein caliber, I believe. And so you are going to be surrounded by idiots. Now, this is a very important thing. You cannot understand the world unless you look at it through the lens of IQ. Everything seems kind of weird and blurry and so on. But when you put the IQ glasses on, right, suddenly it's like, boom, everything becomes clear and it all makes a whole lot of sense. So this is really important to understand that most people are idiots compared to you, right? And I will tell you that it may come across as a lack of emotional intelligence on their part. So you may sort of have the idea that if you just kind of break through people, then they will achieve this depth and they will achieve this understanding and their intelligence will erupt and explode into the stratosphere because you have used the right combination of syllables to unlock their hidden brain power. Do you ever kind of get that idea?
Yeah, in fact, I actually, that's very accurate, because every time when I talk to people, I always say, well, maybe it's me. I'm not getting the information across properly. Maybe I'm not expressing
No.
myself. Maybe I'm not. I mean, that's how I think when I talk to individual, when I try to enter conversations. And another thing that happens is I just can't stand a trivial I mean, it's like the moment I get to work, the moment I open that door, it's like a wall hits me psychologically and I feel down, because I realize that there's no one there that can offer me a conversation that can stimulate me. And because I'm also a student, I'm basically working 45 to 50 hours in 3 days, Friday to Sunday, so I can study Monday to Thursday. So I'm there.
Okay, so let me just sort of give you an analogy that will help. So if you wanted to be a great boxer, right, and you wanted to train with equals, would it make a whole lot of sense to open the Girl Guide boxing gym where no girls over 8 are allowed, and then think that you could somehow make them into world heavyweight championships?
No, that would be stupid.
Right. So you would get really frustrated trying to box at an equal level with 8-year-old little girls, right? Now, there wouldn't be any kind of moves that you could make that would make them taller and stronger, right? Hello?
Yes, I said yeah,
Oh,
sorry.
yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Right. So the brain is a physical organ And the brain, through a combination of genetics and environment, is like 90% developed by the time you're 5, and IQ tests remain very constant throughout someone's life. IQ does not change much over time. We can't really get a whole lot smarter, with one caveat that I'll get to, right? But if you think that the brain is not a physical organ, but you think that there's like a soul, were you raised religious at all?
I was raised religious, but I've been an atheist for about, I'd say, since I was 19 to actually no 20 more accurately, since I was 20. So for about 4 years now.
No, you haven't been.
I mean, my mother was very religious.
Look at me correcting the IQ 139 guy. But no, listen, you have not been an atheist because you still believe deep down in the soul. Soul, brother. You believe it. You believe in the soul because you believe that there's a hidden set of brains, right? That are down there that you can just tap into, right?
That's interesting.
Oh, I was correct. 140 is in the top 0.38% of people. I said it was less than a half, around 0.25. Okay, so you believe that we're all, the soul is that everyone is equal, fundamentally, right? The soul is the ultimate socialism of the species, because with the idea of the soul, everyone is equal, because God creates souls, and God creates all souls to be equal. And so you have, in this atheist theology, if I can put it that way, you have got the idea that somehow a brain is not like height, but the brain somehow has this hidden magical potential of brilliance within it, right? And you drive yourself crazy trying to get other people to be as tall as you are, right?
Yes, that would be accurate.
But you know, since you are a secularist and a materialist, and I assume you understand something about biology, the brain is just an organ.
Indeed.
Right? And the brain, like organ, has variability. Like any organ has variability. And there's no greater variability in any organ in the human body. The brain is the greatest. It's the most variability. Sorry, very clumsily put. Right? But the brain has the ultimate variability. Right? According to many tests, it varies between species. It varies between the genders, in that men tend to have a broader or more shallow bell curve, which means there are more smart men and more dumb men, right? Whereas women tend to be clustered more around the median, right? Which is why there are fewer women in jail and fewer women at the top of intellectual professions, like in business or science or medicine or whatever, right? Just the way it is, right? And so the brain is an organ, and the brain has evolved like every other one of our organs, and evolution, races are supposed to have split off, I think, 50 or 70,000 years ago. But even in the last 5,000 years, people living in high altitudes, you can see that they have adapted because there was a sort of genetic population that split off, living high. So it just takes a few thousand years to evolve. The brain is just like every other organ. It adapts to specific circumstances, and there's a wide degree of variability across individuals, across races, across genders, and so on, at least according to the information and you can read more about this if you want. The Bell Curve is a famous book from the 90s by Charles Murray, which can give you that. So people who are average are like a different species from you, like a different species. And I think that's really important. If you want to be an empiricist, then you have to accept the science of intelligence, right?
Yes.
The IQ test, as you know, is not linear, right?
Yes.
Right? It's not like somebody with an IQ of 120 is 20% smarter than somebody with an IQ of 100, right? It's an extrapolation. It goes up like crazy, right?
Yes.
And human brains vary in size. And the number of neural connections within the human brains vary enormously in size. I mean, in certain genetic groups, the difference between one genetic group and another genetic group is like a full cup of brain matter. I mean, there's huge differences in brain size within groups, between groups, within genders, between genders, and so on. Doesn't mean you don't treat every individual as an individual. Of course you do. But the reality is that you're trying to play basketball with people who are 2.5 feet tall, right?
Yeah.
And you need to accept that biological reality. This is what I mean when I say that you're still kind of a theist, in that you believe that everyone has some potential to grow their brain. And generally, this is not the case, right? When you are 18, you are as tall as you're ever going to be. You can eat a whole lot of more food, but all you'll get is fatter, not taller, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So accepting the reality of the difference in brain size, in IQ, in neural connections, and so on, is really essential. Is really essential. I used to think that people were just emotionally defensive, and that's why they were dumb. Like they'd get some piece of information that contradicted their worldview. Thought be gone. I've got the spray. Taser. That thought, it's approaching my core zone of identity, right? And so I thought, well, okay, if I get people to overcome their emotional defenses, then they'll be smarter. But the problem is that it takes intelligence to overcome emotional defenses. It takes intelligence to understand why it's important to overcome emotional defenses. And dumber people, in my experience and opinion, have a much shorter horizon of what they will be willing to sacrifice, right? A much shorter horizon for the deferral of gratification, right? So a dumb person, when faced, or an average person, when faced with information that contradicts their core identity, a smart person will say, well, you know, I guess it makes me feel uncomfortable, but I wonder why. And it's more important to be accurate and to believe in the truth than it is to be emotionally comfortable. So I will sacrifice my short-term emotional comfort for the sake of my long-term intellectual integrity, which leads you to happiness and to integrity, consistency, you know, all the good things that we want. Now, average people, they can't grasp that if you accept or are willing to explore information counter to your viewpoint, that it's going to be better for you, even though it's uncomfortable in the short run. They can't process that. It's sort of like saying to someone, you shouldn't eat your favorite food because it might give you health problems in 300 years. Now, if somebody said that to you, what would you say?
Well, I'd say stupid.
I think I'll take the risk, right? Because we don't live for 300 years. And so not eating my favorite food because of health problems in 300 years wouldn't make any sense. So I'm just going to continue to eat my favorite food, right?
Yeah.
So being able to empathize and project yourself forward in time and be able to act in a way that is beneficial for your future self, no matter how uncomfortable to your present self, is beyond the capacities of most of humanity. And you can just see this from the diet industry, right? I mean, everybody says, ooh, lose weight. Ooh, you know, you should weigh less, lose weight. And people spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on diets and diet books and crap like that. And the number of people who lose weight and keep it off is minuscule. Most people lose weight and gain more back. Now, that's actually pretty easy. Don't eat crap. You know, exercise. It's not that hard, right? This is not getting a PhD in astrophysics. And people can't even keep crap out of their mouths and their feet on a sidewalk, right? And so they cannot empathize. This is why almost 30 million Americans now have type 2 diabetes, the non-genetic kind, right? Because stuff your faces with crap because it tastes good in the moment, and don't exercise because exercise is uncomfortable in the moment, and don't have any empathy for your future Ella Fitzgerald self that's going to lose eyesight and limbs and all that, right? So most people, when you bring up information that's uncomfortable for them, they don't have the intelligence to look down the road and say, well, I better process this uncomfortable information so that I can be happier in the future. I mean, people don't even have enough brains to take their head out of the goddamn Cheetos bag and go for a walk. And, you're asking them to process philosophical abstractions that make them very uncomfortable. So that is really, really important. Really important to understand that you are surrounded by mostly monkeys, right? You don't say to monkeys usually, hey, let me make a deal with you, man. You give me this banana now, and I'll give you 5 bananas tomorrow or next year, right? The bananas are like, oh, the monkeys are like, banana, good, right? I mean, that's what they do. And most people, I mean, they're mostly monkeys. Confirmation bias, good, right? Well, it's going to make you unhappy down the road if you keep imbibing false information and go for confirmation bias and exclude information that's counter to your perspective. No, confirmation bias, good. Confirmation bias, part of tribe. We like tribe. Contrary information makes me uncomfortable and makes my armpits sweat. Diarrhea, and therefore confirmation bias, you bad, make me feel bad. Oh, banana. Right? This is basically what you're doing. This is what you get in this constant monologue, but this is all the subtitles that people come with. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, it made more sense than I could ever think it would. I never saw it that way.
Well, tell me, where I'm wrong. I mean, you know that IQ is testable. You know it's highly variable in the population, and you're in the top 0.3%, right?
Yeah, I mean, I perfectly agree with you. I mean, there's nothing I disagree with you. It's just now that I'm a bit shocked about everything. I'm just realizing now. I mean, now I also realize why I've been doing this, which is a bit.
Yeah, which is that you're used to managing and crossing your fingers and hoping for intelligent stuff from relatively dumb people. And that's kind of cruel, right? It's kind of cruel to say to the guy who's 4 feet tall, you should try to become an NBA star, right? I mean, it's just kind of cruel, right?
Yeah, that's true. I just guess because this is the way I was raised up. I mean, especially my parents. Whenever I actually
dumb people don't like to hear that they're dumb, right? This is why democracy is a massive subsidy to idiots, right? Because you get a vote with an IQ of 139, and a guy with an IQ of 85 gets a vote as well, which I mean is completely insane. At least in the free market, you'll accumulate more dollar votes, and the idiot won't accumulate more dollar votes, right? And sorry, somebody just said in the chat window, well, obesity tends to accumulate where there's poverty around. No. Obesity and poverty tend to be the result of a low IQ population. And because the deferral of gratification is one of the primary marks of intelligence. And so when you have a low IQ population, you will get poverty because people aren't willing to study, to learn, to grow, to do research, to make contacts, to do all of the sacrificial stuff that's frankly in the short run a hell of a lot less fun than playing Candy Crush. And they also won't say, well, Cheetos taste better than broccoli, but I should eat my broccoli because blah-de-blah-de-blah, right? So, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I just realized now because all my friends, or all the friends that I've ever managed to gather, I mean, let's say I don't have a lot of friends. I have about 10, I'd say. And in most cases...
That's a lot of friends.
Well, friends, I mean, quote unquote, not. I mean, friends who would stick up for me, I'd say 2. Then let's call them acquaintances, Facebook friends. I just realized now that I've sort of been postponing deleting them, just because it's been so difficult for me to find, people who I can have a constructive conversation with. I mean, until I found, of course, Free Domain Radio and the chat rooms and everything. But how can I say? Now I just feel like I should just go and delete like most of my Facebook list because.
Well, listen. Okay.
Because there's no point to keep them.
Here's the thing, which is that, I mean, you've probably heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? The Dunning-Kruger effect is basically that dumb people do not know that they're dumb. Dumb people vastly overestimate their own abilities. It's what makes them dumb. right? If you think you're already excellent at something, you don't tend to practice it as much. And there's so many studies being replicated the world over that idiots think they're geniuses, and geniuses are very humble. And that's one of the marks of intelligence, is knowing how much you don't know, right? So here's the mark of an idiot. Anyone who says, bloody, bloody, blah, period, right? And I get this on my videos all the time. Well, the simple truth is that monkey, 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 bah, throw poo, period. And it's just like, okay, so you're an idiot because you think that there's just one simple truth. Like the Elliot Rodger video, you can scroll through the comments and you'll see comment after comment of, well, the simple truth is he was just a narcissistic idiot who... Okay, well, if you think that the entire growth of a complex human being who did unimaginable evil is as simple as, then you're an idiot. And idiots, deep down, they know they're idiots. Like deep down, they know they're idiots. Like deep down, Danny DeVito is not secretly waiting for his Calvin Klein underwear model gig, right? Deep down, they know that they're idiots, but they can hide their idiocy from themselves if they stay away from competent people, or they use the wonderful phrase that mostly monkeys use, which is, "You're overthinking this."
Oh, I've heard that. Oh my God.
You're overthinking this. It's like, no, I'm not overthinking anything, you idiot. I'm just thinking. That's all. I mean, who says Jessica Alba? You're over-sexifying this. You're over-attractive this. I mean, whoever says to a Danica Patrick, you're over-fasting your car. Or to somebody who's in the Boston Marathon, you're overrunning this race. It's like, no, it's, they're just running. And so when people say they're overthinking, what they're saying is, my monkey brain cannot process your higher primate concepts, and therefore I'm going to assume that not that I'm deficient, but that you have too muchness, right? You're over tall. Like, no, you're just saying that you feel short, right? If you say you feel short, that's fine. Say, I feel short next to you. Not, Steph, you're over tall. It's just ridiculous, right? And I mean, we are surrounded by mostly monkeys. And, if you start a business, if you try to get people to do anything in this goddamn universe, you will realize that we are surrounded by mostly monkeys. And they're, baldish monkeys, and a lot of them know how to operate a smartphone because Candy Crush is fun, but they are mostly monkeys. And when you and I are learning how to program computers and reading our Rothbard and reading our Mises and reading our Rand and reading our Aristotle, right, they are watching army wives and tearing up with sentimentality about the fallen, wounded warriors of the general imperialistic propaganda. And we have to be careful because these idiots have votes. And we have to be careful because these idiots can punch. And when you arise like some glorious white ice maleficent demon of thought with this snowy beating wings over the darkened troll-like orcish landscape of human ignorance, people get startled and they lash out. Oh! I thought I was tall. I just met a man who's 25 feet tall. He is over tall. I must punch his kneecaps because it is a sin against my shortness to be over tall, right? And there's a lot of aggression and bullying. And this is why nerds get bullied, because nerds make jocks feel as stupid as they generally are. And they're frustrated, right? They get frustrated. And and of course, the only reason why mostly monkeys survive is that women will breed with mostly monkeys, and so on. So they just did a study that came out recently where women ogle genitalia a lot more than men do. Men mostly look at faces and then maybe look at boobs and butt or whatever, but women go straight to the genitals, like this homing periscope beacon of estrogen base suction padding. So look, the reality is, be empirical. You are surrounded by mostly monkeys who are threatened by your intellectual capacity. And my suggestion is stay as far away from them as humanly possible. Vampires are not smooth and suave and debonair and all kinds of George Hamilton cocoa butter tans from the underworld. The human vampires are just these tiny little dull people who want to wrap you in their dismal, dank, dripping, bat-infested caves of small-minded inconsequentiality. They don't want you to break through the surface and head for the skies. They just want you to stay down and stay small. And they're basically saying, don't make me feel stupid. Don't make me feel stupid. Because stupid people don't get that the whole point of intelligence is to make you feel stupid. What's the whole point of thinking? Is to go to new places which you're not good at. Most people, they want repetition. Oh, this show is on Friday night. I like this bar. This is my beer. This is my town. This is my costumed group of people who kicked down the ball down the fieldings. And that's my repetition. I'm going to have a relationship with my wife that was pretty much the same as my parents' relationship with each other. I'm just going to repeat stuff that I did before because I don't want to feel stupid and put myself in new situations where I don't know what's going on. So I'm just going to get stuck in this Groundhog Day revolving door of the same day over and over and over and over and over and over again. So I never don't know what to do. Whereas smart people are like, oh my God, I'm so bored. I know this stuff already. Oh my God, give me something new. Give me something new. That's what I'm always doing, is let me find something new that blows my mind. Let me find something new that I'm stupid about. Like I've just started doing a whole lot of research on immigration. And I don't know what the hell's going on. I love people who blow my mind, which means they make me feel like an idiot because I am mostly an idiot. That's called being smart, is to know that you're mostly an idiot. What do I really know about quantum physics? And what do I really know about Planck? And what do I really know about Tesla? And what do I really know about electromagnetics? And what do I really know about Pashtian foreign policy? There's just so many things that I don't know. I'd like my intelligence to even be one star in an infinite night sky, but it's not even that. It's like a firefly on the far side of a black hole. And so I love people who come and blow my mind, right? I love Socrates. I love Aristotle. I love Rand. I love Coulter. I love the people who I don't agree with everything they say, and so what, right? But the point is they blow my mind. And that's the whole point. When you have intelligence, you constantly want to feel like an idiot, because that means you're learning something new. If you don't have intelligence, you can't stand feeling like an idiot because you are one. My ego can handle being completely incompetent at something and not knowing crap about anything because I have the intelligence to know that that is the necessary part of the acquisition of wisdom and knowledge and all that kind of stuff, right? People think that my theory on ethics, universally preferable behavior, is something arrogant. And I've mentioned this before, but it's just ridiculous. I'm basically saying when I publish an article, which I guess I did first in 2006, and then the book came in, I think, 2008. I'm basically saying I'm in my 40s and I don't know what right and wrong is. I don't know what good and evil is. And my whole life prior to this has been based upon a lack of knowledge. Now, to know the value of pursuing secular ethics and the implicit admission when putting out a book on ethics, which is to say, before this, I didn't know what ethics was. I was guiding my life on wings of bullshit in the darkness with a spinning compass. And all great leaps forward in knowledge are a confession of prior incompetence. And only intelligent people know the value of that and are willing to do it. Dumb people will not admit the value of feeling dumb. Because for you and I, we can study something and escape the feeling of being dumb, but dumb people can never escape that feeling. So if they admit that they're dumb, well, they're just, I guess, recognizing their incapacities. Now, Ayn Rand wrote a lot of the sort of Eddie Willer's characters, I think his name was. These are average people who could appreciate really great people. I'm not a great singer, but I love to hear. I love to sing, but I love to hear a great singer. Because I'm like, oh my God, I'd love to be able to open my mouth and just that beautiful tone and sound that people make almost effortlessly sometimes. But so I am not a good singer, but I can appreciate a good singer. But most people who are not intelligent cannot appreciate great intelligence. They can only appreciate great intelligence when it shows up from central casting, when it shows up in a stereotypical manner. Einstein, he looks like a mad professor, so he's smart, right? Whereas other people don't look that way and therefore don't get the same. You know, he was a cliche in terms of how he looked and how he acted and so on, which is not to say he wasn't a genius. Of course he was. So I think that's just really, really important to understand. Funniest thing, again, just it's tragic. You know, people talk about entitlement mentality. I mean, how on earth does the average person imagine that they get a say equal to a political genius when it comes to how society ought to be run? I mean, again, democracy only appeals to mostly monkeys because only mostly monkeys think that their vote equals the vote of an intelligent and competent person, right? Like they understand when it comes to something more direct, which they can steal from, they understand like, okay, so you stay awake during the appendicitis operation and then, you know, you and the surgeon will debate about which cut to do next. They'll be like, no, put me out, cut. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Put me out, cut, and stitch me back up. You're the expert, right? So they get that with that kind of stuff. But when it comes to, I don't know, how to organize national defense, what currency should be, how to educate children, suddenly every naked ape with an asshole and an opinion considers himself a stone genius that's able to pierce through the lies of self-interested politicians, throw the spear over the hedge and have it land in the bullseye of a perfect future. And that's entitlement. And that's entitlement. And then you say to people, you know, you don't really know as much as other people about stuff. You really don't know as much about other people's stuff. You can't make as good an arguments. You think you're making arguments, but you're just making syllable sounds with your eating hole. And they're just shocked and appalled because their whole life they've been told, one man, one vote. You are equal to everyone else. You have the soul. You have the soul of Einstein. Einstein just had bigger hair and a better job at the patent office. And the reality is most people are way short and we're trying to get them taller. You know, we're not going to have a free society until people are willing to examine information that runs counter to their immediate emotional preferences and the emotional preferences of the idiots around them. And this is the ultimate, you know, Gulliver's Travels, right? Where the Gulliver is a giant and he gets the Lilliputians throw all these little ropes and keep him bound up and tied. Oh, this is a great intelligence or a great mind among the petty, nearly mostly ape average. That until we can get people to be smart enough to be able to process information that runs counter to their emotional preferences, we're not going to have a free society. Why the hell do I focus on not hitting children, on raising them peacefully? Because that will raise IQ to the point where we might actually have the capacity to change people's minds. Because right now, we're lecturing to a bag of hammers, right? We are trying to change the minds of a bucket of rocks. And we are trying to throw our seeds onto red hot Georgia asphalt. And then, hey, nothing's growing, man. What's going on? What's the matter? I keep writing on my blog and doing my podcast and talking to people. I keep throwing water on the seeds on Georgia asphalt. I'm not getting any trees. What's wrong? Well, what's wrong is that we are not recognizing the secular truth that the brain is an organ that is mostly damaged by religion, by parents, by culture, by what laughingly is called education these days. And we can't change the education. We can talk people out of religion, and we can talk parents into being better parents. That moves the seeds from the middle of the road to the side of the road.